Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is our program on point. Hosted always here at Focus on Liberia with Mr. Jerome Gateman and George Kanatule. Mr. Tule is not in today, and he asked me to show up for him. I'm here live, fresh, ready to discuss the issues that matter to our dear country, Liberia. That country is in trouble politically, either way you look at it, because there are a lot of things happening in Liberia. Well, seated, comfortably prepared and ready to discuss our country, Mr. Ansu Dualo. Mr. Dualo, welcome to On Point on Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much, Anselin. It's a pleasure to be here. So we have a great deal to discuss Liberia because this is the only way we can find solutions to some of our problems. So we're here to make sure we find those solutions and hopefully we can have the proper leadership to execute all the solutions that are presented.
Thank you. It's always good to have you here, Mr. Dualo. Also, here is Mohammed Sharif, Focus on Liberia political analyst, here on point, I believe, for the first time. And we are hoping that he will be on point and not off point. Mr. Sharif, welcome to On Point and Focus on Liberia.
Hey, it's always great to be on this platform, to be on any of the programs, whether it's our flagship program, the Tough Talking Thursday, or whether it's any of the weekend shows. So it's always great to be here.
Thank you. And I hope you will be on point as you always try to do. Always sometime off point is the host of On Point, Mr. Jerome Gilman. Mr. Gilman, I hope you will be on point today. Welcome to On Point. Are you prepared to be on point?
Today is a special day, so let me see which one of these specs will do for you.
There you go.
Okay. There you go. Now I can see.
I think I'm going to deal with it. I will still with a Charles D.B. King kind of spec for today because today is a special one.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a special one. As you can see, I have brought together three of the best minds, I will say, from the CDC camp. You know, I am an unabashed, unapologetic supporter of the true CDC, the government of George W. How do you call it? GMW. They call it a great man walking. That's the initial of great man walking. A man who have done the unusual. A young man who was born and raised right there, selling bottle. Rose from the beginning. We call it, in the Greek philosophy, we call it the phoenix. Rose from the ashes to where he is. And with me are three guys who are trying to bring him down at every point they have. I see my brother Dualo here, who is an unabashed opposition to Mr. Weir, President Weir, everything Weir. I see on the left-hand side, when I was a student of the Gabriel Barker Matthews School of Social Thought, he said the most dangerous man in the room is a man who considers himself neutral. And with me are two of these men who consider themselves neutral, and I'm afraid of them. One is Mr. Sharif. This is a gentleman from the best, one of the best in the Southeast. We are talking about the Waplo Institute of Social Thoughts. This man came from there, so he knows what he's doing. Also, from Grand Crew, one of the best thinkers. When you talk about great orators, the political bulldog is Anthony C. He's here to take down George Weah, and I am here. I'm in the middle. I say in the red trunk, in the blue and black trunk, actually, is the defender of the Propo agenda for prosperity. I love you guys. Come on and let's debate the issue. You guys are going down. You have always lived off point, and we'll bring you back.
Thank you so very much. And to our listening audience, before I can turn things over to the host of this program, Mr. Jerome Gilman, let us bring to you all we have packaged for discussion today. Issue number one, in the back room, please roll the issues as I, call them. Issue number one, Gongloe Refutes teaming up with Joseph Human Boakai. We are asking these questions. Is Team Boakai chance narrowing, or Gongloe is being politically correct? Be it to that, Boakai and Gongloe, who wins or loses bigly in a Boakai coming scenario? Issue number two, Liberia's Zogo crisis continues. Anso Opa Dwalu pens an article. What does he see that many Liberians do not see? Opa is here. We'll talk about that article. Be it to that, should we take the purported Zogo press statement seriously? The Zogos released a statement, and I will be giving highlights as we get to that. And finally, there on this particular topic, why don't we have serious effort on the part of the government when it comes to the Zogo crisis? Why don't we see that? And also, has Liberia reached a stage of epidemic? Of recent, there is a reported case of a 3-year-old that was raped by a 17-year-old. What is going on? Why did we see a press conference from the General Minister of Piso City Ta? What is the government up to here? And finally, Liberia's city Monrovia swims in filthiness. Is the Major Jefferson Koji on point that lack of donor funding is the problem? Where is the moral bro of Liberia? Where is President Weah? And where is the national legislature as Liberia is stink and dirty all over the place? Well, I will turn things over to Mr. Gilman, who is the host of On Point here at Focus on Liberia as we go into this issue. Mr. Gilman, it's over to you.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. For our brothers and sisters in cyberspace, we say welcome. We appreciate you. Please share the video. And this is a show that comes in 3 parts. First, we are going to discuss and introduce the issues. 2, we are going to take a break and then bring in either calls or comments. We're going to answer to your comments and your calls. And then 3, we're going to come out and do our final analysis and then our closing. But for now, we are talking about politics on the ground. And I know some of you may think that we have beaten this thing to death. But as far as we are concerned, for the next 18 months, it's going to get even worse. As people in some areas, when I was in political science schools, we say political seasons are considered silly seasons. So there may be people walking around. Some people, I say they are politicians, but they are cross-dressers. They were aligned with the CDC, and then tomorrow they were aligned with the opposition. And at some point they were realigned. So we call it silly season. My brother, Mr. Sharif, you are here. We are talking about a very serious issue. As the former vice president of the Republic of Liberia, you think by now, everybody should be flocking towards his camp, coming towards being part of him, wanting to be with him as an elderly statesman, as a man with 52-year governmental experience, and a former vice president for the past 12 years, and the dean of the Senate. You think by now, everybody should be in line to be his number 2. But as we just read in the paper and listened to the speech by Mr. Gongloe, he said whoever is proffering, whoever is putting that propaganda out there should disassociate that particular propaganda with him. He does not want to be second to Joseph Boakai, and he is championing corruption, the fight of corruption to be his legacy. He does not want to align himself with Joseph Boakai. To some of us in the other corner, we see that as saying, well, Joseph Boakai is corrupt. I do not want to be aligned with him. What says you, my brother?
Well, first, if you will indulge me, and again, thanks for having me. Yes, indeed, this is my first appearance on your show, On Point. So thanks for the invite. But if you will indulge me for a minute, I want to take this moment to, as part of the world community, to sort of recognize the sufferings of the people of the Ukraine. We, as part of the human community, cannot ignore what is going on, especially in this global village of ours. I remember when our situation, when the guns, were firing, the missiles were landing on homes and people were being slaughtered all over Liberia. I remember people, didn't have any hope. And I remember a lot of us, especially people in my ethnic group, were, running for cover everywhere. And it seemed like there was no safety. So I remember those dark and desolate days. And so this is what the people of Ukraine are going through at this time. So my heart goes out to those suffering people. Now, to the question of Liberian politics, um, Mr. Boakai, you mentioned of the fact that it seemed like nobody wants to become his vice presidential candidate. But I will say one thing. So if you are Tiawan Gongloe, and I don't think he's making any traction really. I mean, he say what you may about the Unity Party and Joseph Boakai. Of course, I'm not a supporter, but he has some tractions. So when these unscientific polls, when these numbers, when these issues are raised, so who are people really talking about the most? Even though Liberia has no way, we have no way of knowing. So there's a sort of empirical data to glean what is going on. But at the same time, we can listen. We see what people write. We see what people say. We hear what people say. And so these sort of unscientific data suggest that Mr. Boakai is in the top four of the top tier candidates. So he is really one of the opposition leaders on the verge. So if you are Mr. Gongloe, the up and coming, relatively speaking, if you're up and coming, maybe you want to tie your wagon to a convenient, right, a politically convenient institution where you want to make a change, but there will be a time for you. So you probably, it may not be a good advice for him, but my opinion is you want to tie your wagon somewhere where you can start off. So he can start off by perhaps accepting to discuss, not to blow this thing out of the water, not to say I'm never going to be a vice presidential candidate for any of these guys. I want to be the president. Sometimes in politics, flexibility is the way to go. So I don't think it's politically prudent for him to just say no. I don't think so. And I hate to call it naivety, because I don't think he is naive. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. But sometimes in politics, you just have to exercise some level of flexibility.
Mr. Dualo, I'll come to you next. Let me go to the political bulldog here. Mr. C, when you play soccer like everybody else in Liberia when we're growing up, when you have the ball in your hand, most of us never have football. So the guy who owns the football is the guy that everybody chooses first, because if you don't choose him, he will take his ball home. So everybody wants to make sure that he plays, and he plays on every team. The losing team leaves, and he plays on the other team, because if you don't choose him, he will take his ball home. If Joseph Boakai has this ball, like Mr. Sharif has said, he has the popularity, he has the name recognition, he's the most formidable candidate from the opposition Unity Party. Why is it that nobody wants to? Is it a deodorant, or what is it that causes people to flee from this guy?
Well, thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Gilbert, I will not say nobody wants to be vice president to Joseph Boakai. I believe there are people out there who would love to be vice president or vice presidential candidate to Mr. Boakai. And the reasons are obvious. Mr. Boakai has the name recognition. Mr. Boakai parties made it 3 times to the second round, 2005, 2011, 2017. So if there is any political institution that can go to the second round, it will be United Party followed by the CDC, because the history is so succinct there, you can't argue it. So, but people have their reason. But in the case of Cummings, at least we can say with certainty that Cummings has not really giving us any indication that he really wants to be a vice presidential candidate to Mr. Boakai. If that was so, then they won't have the chaos that led to the death, on mature. I mean, I'm sorry, the premature death of the CPP. So yes, there are people that want to be. Now let me come to the Tier 1 issue. What Tier 1 said, Tier 1 was responding to rumors that he was somehow in conversation with Boakai to go as number 2. And he said, no, there's no such thing happening. I am not in conversation with Mr. Boakai to go as number 2. He said, I am a member of a political party. I am still talking to my party to choose me to be its candidate. When that happens, it will be even my party to have a party-to-party conversation. That is what Tier 1 said. And then he went further to say, but if I will go number 2 to somebody, it will mean that that person has a much better record in terms of fighting corruption in this country. And if I find such person, I won't hesitate to give the person the opportunity to be number 2. That is what Tier 1 said, and Focus on Liberia want to be very clear on this. Now,
but before, sorry, Anthony.
No, go ahead, Pablo, if you want.
This is what I want to say, Mr. Gayman, because for the sake of the audience, we should try, have the fluidity of the conversation. We don't want one person to monopolize the conversation. I'm not saying anybody is. So, 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, we can go around the conversation. But I want to address your issue very clearly, Mr. Gayman. I don't know whether you read Mr. Tier 1's response. You were completely wrong in your accusation, what he said. He did not say he doesn't want to go to second to Mr. Boakai. That was
the man at City statement. He just want to muddy the water.
I understand. He did not say people running away from Mr. Boakai. That's not true. That's what he said. He's not even. Mr. Gongloe did not even say he's not going to go second. He made it very clear that he's not in conversation with anybody. However, he's not throwing out the opportunity to go second with somebody if the person can prove otherwise. So the windows are open. Now, let's be frank here. Nobody's running away from Mr. Boakai. Okay? These are political season. People are talking, going back and forth. We have to lay the premise. And the premise has to be right. Now, if you want the conversation to go in a certain direction, it has to be truthful. So you got to lay that premise right. And I'm going to be watching you tonight. Lay the premise right. Let's have the conversation. Let it be entirely truthful.
Thank you, Duablo. That is very significant. So, yeah. I mean, I hope I was able to make it clear and state exactly what Mr. Gongloe said, and that was also reported. So he did not say, no, I don't want to run, to be second to. He said, no, there's no conversation going. The rumor is that there's conversation going on.
Right.
And he said, no, nothing like that's happening. We're not having a conversation. That did not in any way mean he's saying, no, I do not want to.
Right.
But he also set the criteria for which, you understand, he would not want to be on top of a ticket and will allow another person to be on top of that ticket should any sort of discussion come to Focus. That is what Mr. Gongloe said. So to end here quickly, Mr. Boakai, should he succeed, should there be a conversation in the future either with the LPP or Tier 1 as an individual, should he goes independent? We are talking about the future here. And if Mr. Boakai is to succeed at some time in the future to be number 2 on a ticket that will see Tier 1 as for Boakai to go number 1 and Tier 1 to go as number 2 to any such ticket. In other words, a Boakai Tier 1 ticket, that would be a plus for Tier 1. Whoever becomes number 2 to Boakai, they stand a chance of winning, even though with my political eye, I can tell you, once Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is not supporting Boakai, Boakai has a nightmare that he will never get over. He will have sleepless nights every day once Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is not on his side. So it may not matter who he gets as number 2, but I will say he has to do a better job to get Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Then it will matter less who becomes his number 2. But it will also be more appropriate should he get somebody like Tier 1 because he has impeccable record, name recognition. We're talking name barrier where we have several thousands of votes, and also the fact that the man has the experience. The man worked as Minister of Labor, Minister of Justice, or Anthony. I mean, the president of the bar. He has worked in so many capacities, so he will make an excellent president as well as an excellent vice president. But I will encourage Jawon Gongloe to go for it and win this thing. That is all I want to see.
And Anthony, if I will come in,
one minute, one minute, Sharif. Let's go to Mr. Dualo here before we come back to Mr. Dualo. Here we are here. Joseph, former Vice President Joseph Boakai, being the immediate past Vice President that worked for 12 years in the Ellen government, and the government has been considered and marked by everybody in the world as one of the most corrupt. And in fact, Joseph Boakai himself admitted that the billions, $16.7 billion that came through the government from 2006 to 2018 was most of it was opportunity was squandered on his watch. Gongloe also worked in that government. In fact, twice in that government. And that government was considered one of the most corrupt government. Now you are pairing the corrupt vice president that squandered everything with a man that worked twice in that government. Now they are coming back together. They're reminding me now of this Nigerian author that says the crooks that just ruined our country are now regathering and repackaging themselves to come as becoming the savior. Is that what we are having here? Two failed people from the most corrupt government in recent times coming back together and say, Liberia, give us a chance. This time around, we are going to do it. We got it. Tell me, how would this work when vice president that was there with a guy who worked twice in the government, in labor, I think also in another ministry, coming together now and say, my people, what we did first, that 16 billion that we ate, forget it. The new 16 billion that coming, we will do something with it. Tell me how you reconcile the differences.
But Mr. Gayman, you can go to a failed school and not be a failed student. I'll use myself as an example. My high school here in Massachusetts, the high school that I went to, it was one of the worst in the state. Okay? But in my high school, there was a top layer on the third floor where you have gifted students up there. Nearly everybody went to college, everybody went to graduate school. The point I'm trying to make is just because those people work in that government doesn't mean they're entirely culpable with some of the corruptions that happen, given the kind of power they have. Now, on our government, our form of government, okay, you have to understand the role of the vice presidency. Now, I'm not negating the fact that Mr. Boakai holds some responsibility to the country when it comes to that. But we have to be realistic. The premise that they have absolute control on what happened in the country is flawed to begin with. Let's set the proper premise, and then if we make accusation against Honorable Boakai, and then we make that accusation. Okay? I'm not a big fan of the UP party, but let's be realistic in making those accusations. This is my argument.
Oh, well, Mr. Sharif, I see, Mr. Dualo here, I was giving him a few minutes to actually make a case. But when you are guilty or when you are trapped, sometimes you cannot defend the indefensible, and this is what it is. And I'm glad at least that he threw in the White Tower. Now, Mr. Sharif, let's go here. We are talking about two guys that came from a losing team. The goalkeeper can't stop nobody. They score all the goals on him. And the other guy is a terrible back, he's number 5. He can't stop anybody. Then he turns around and says, well, that first half, forget it. The second half, we're coming back. We will beat this game. We're down by 10, but we'll come back and beat them back. Tell me, how do you, as if you were a political advisor, okay, a statistician, if you are talking about somebody who is a strategist, a statistician that has all the numbers and everything in your war room, how will you advise Boakai to take on the new Liberia, to rebrand himself?
So, what I was trying to do first, when Anthony,
go ahead.
When Anthony ended his thought, because in this kind of discussion, it's not really regimented. So a host or some other participant may say something that would trigger a new idea. So that's kind of what I was trying to do. And sometimes, if you can't get it at that moment, it kind of throws you off base for a minute. But what I was really trying to do first is to say that Anthony mentioned the discord between Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Mr. Boakai, right? So and we see what's going on with the CDC. I'm sorry, with the CPP, right? So what that tells me is, what does it tell me? It tells me that there's reason to be concerned if you're in the Boakai camp, because if he wasn't able to bring together, if he wasn't able to coexist, right, at the end of their administration, to bring Ellen Johnson on board his campaign, and now if he's not able to hold the CPP together, what does that say about his leadership ability, his ability to bring people together? I know he's a good man, he's a fine man, but that is something that is concerning to me. There's a reason why Ellen Johnson Sirleaf supported George Weah. There's a reason right now why the CPP is fractured, and Mr. Boakai has not played the pivotal role needed to bring those factions together. So that is very concerning if I have to advise him, right? The other thing that Mr. Dualu mentioned in his response, and I agree with him, just because you went to a failing school does not mean that you're going to be a failed student, right? There's a lot of us who went to schools that were substandard in today's word and term. But I can say, look where we are now. Some of you guys, like Jerome, you guys you probably went to an elite school. You guys are the elitists, but some of us went to schools that were forgotten, right? But it didn't matter because we did what we had to do, right? So I don't believe that just because Boakai was linked to a government that where there was allegations of corruption and whatnot, that they can't form a good team. Now, you look at the example of William R. Tolbert and Tubman, right? So when Tolbert took over, he did not endorse. So he was actually, if you look at the history, read the history of that era, he was really the anti-Tubman, right? So all of the things that he did, he liberalized the press, so there was freedom of, there was free expression. And you had all these, political institutions, coming up around that time. And so there was a lot of political liberalism. But he worked with Tubman for 19 years. So are you going to say because he worked with Tubman and he was very quiet, that that's an indictment on him? Sometimes it's not. As a vice president in Africa, you don't have a voice. You don't have, and in some ways, that's where I may sometimes agree with Boakai, even though I don't like that term. He said I was a parked, he said I was like a parked race car, right? It was a parked car, and that which he said have gone viral. And that is something that he has to contend with. But so sometimes as a vice president, you are under, you work with a president. So, just because he was affiliated with Ellen doesn't mean that going forward, that a team of Boakai and Gongloe is not going to be a good team. I think it will be a good team.
Thank you very much. As you can see here, we spent a lot of time on this, and we're going to come back to this. Let's go to another topic that is pressing now in Liberia. Yes.
May I hold you back?
Yes.
Let me conclude on this issue with Boakai and Gongloe.
Real
This
quick.
question you asked earlier, you told me, you said, I know Anthony said you played football. I played that game and I did very well. And you said that when you are before the goal post, what do you do when we are in possession of the ball? And you insinuated that it is obvious that Boakai is in possession of the ball, given the fact that, he has a name recognition when you look in the opposition community. He came from the biggest political party. He has the ball right now in the opposition camp. He's number 9, so to speak, politically. Whether that is true or not, it can still be debated. But holding all things constant, I can say Boakai is the number 9 in the opposition camp. What is he doing with the ball? What he's doing with the ball is keeping the ball. He's now moving the ball. So if he keep holding that ball, a tactical defender will come and snatch that ball from him. What am I saying here? You can't be in this position. He had an opportunity to convince one man Cummings to become number 2, and George Weah, politically, I don't want to say that word, probably will be doing something in his pants right now. That's what George Weah will be doing. But what happened? That opportunity got squandered. So that opportunity gone. It's like it would never happen given the fact that it's in court. He could not convince one man Cummings. Just as he cannot convince his immediate boss, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, to come on his side. That is the biggest message. He has to work on that. Now, who did Mr. Boakai manage to convince? Nyombli, somebody with no political clout. Who did he manage to convince? What's his name? Or Ure. The guy cannot even win 1%. So Mr. Boakai is doing everything to shock out his own chances again. He's not a number 9. I saw him wearing number 9 with Nyombli wearing number 6. He's not a number 9. I think he should stop wearing that number 9. Mr. Boakai has everything in his power if he wants to be president to run with that ball. From what I see, he's not running with the ball. And Tiawan must slip from his hand again because I think the progressive community sees something in Tiawan, but that progressive community, let me indict them, they are sleeping. They need to wake up if they want to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's go to this pressing issue here, because this one cuts across party line, and we want to talk about this because there are two things that on this agenda that cuts across party line. And to me, it is actually a national security issue. We talk about the epidemic of rape. Rape, when in every society, is a case of power, somebody overpowering somebody. But in Liberia now, we have gone to the death of humanity, where we see babies. This is satanic. I don't know. I wish. Where are we headed with this? This is what we need to talk about, because as you know, a very good friend of mine that I consider a brother, he was a mentee of mine. Nabeje, a baby was raped on the compounds of the Liberia embassy in Nigeria, and we are discussing this. And thousands of women being renowned, they have gone down to babies. Mr. C just came about Mr. Ansu. Let's discuss that. This is one of those things that is so creepy that political party, political ideology cannot defend what is going on here. What's wrong with our human?
Look, you know, sometimes President Weah has a great responsibility to the people of the Republic of Liberia. He swore an oath to protect them. Okay, foreign and domestic, no matter what, it's his responsibility to protect the country. He's responsible for law enforcement in the country. He has negated that responsibility.
What's happening?
Okay. He's breaking in. I think he had a problem with the internet. Mr. Sherry, can you chime in here while he comes back in?
Yeah, so the issue is nothing new. So George Weah inherited a whole host of social problems, and this is one of them. You will remember back in 2014, there was something going on with an organization called More Than Me. I bring up More Than Me to clearly, illustrate what has been going on all along. So, there was this young American woman who, went to Liberia and opened up schools. I think about 2 dozen schools for young girls. And she managed to, garner a large amount of resources. And so she worked in Liberia for some years. And the one guy that, I think his last name is Johnson. I think McIntosh Johnson is his name. This one guy who was assisting her with the school, and these thousands of kids were in their care. So this guy was one of the abusers, was actually the principal abuser of these kids. And it turned out that this guy was even, HIV positive to compound, the problem during that time. So what happened? So nothing occurred until again, I'm going to say it, some of my colleagues may not like it, a foreign institution had to investigate. So what is wrong with our people? No one saw this. So a foreign institution ProPublica investigated this issue and put this out there in 2018. By that time, it was so late. I do understand that something was done, but it was not enough. The damage was already done before 2018. So it was a lot of protests, and so I bring this up to say, what happened to Miss Katie Mueller? Did the government take any action before the advent of George Weah and after George Weah? What did the government do, Jerome? Both governments, the government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the government of George Weah, none of them did anything. Their effort, whatever they did, was not enough. And so that is just one case. And you have, UNICEF. The other day I read something in The Economist. The Economist is a London-based publication, and The Economist put out statistics that over 1,200 young girls were physically assaulted in 2020. 1,200. If you look at that number, this is what is reported. There are a lot of cases all over the country that are not reported. The unreported cases are out there. And I think that every one of us, so I'm glad that we're talking about this, everybody should be outraged. The country should be outraged. But instead, what is the gender minister doing? What is the gender minister doing? The gender minister is outraged because someone published a book and talked about George Weah's wife in a way that was unpleasant. And so the women group, the gender minister, everyone came out there and condemned this author or the authors of the book. But all of the things that are going on daily, no one is talking about that. So this is what this is what we should be talking about. This is what the country should be talking about. I'm glad you brought it up. It's really, really, really looking really, really bad for us right now. Already we are known as a dirty capital city. We must not be known again as the rip city of Africa.
Mr. Xie, for those of us who go all the way back to the Civil War, we heard horrendous stories of sex slaves, where basically child soldiers were encouraged to rape their mom, their sister, any woman of power, and all of it. This was something that was inculcated within our society from birth. These child soldiers that were 7, 8 years old, raping their sisters, their brothers, their mothers, they are now in their 30s and their 20s. And these are people who were groomed to be killers, to be rapists of society. I think the New York Times did a piece called "Using Sex as a Weapon," rape as a weapon against the opposition. If you didn't like the Mandingo tribe, you go into the Mandingo settlement, and all the women, you rape them and in front of their husbands. You don't like the crime, you go in there, you do this. This was a crime. This was a tactic. This was a war tactic for those who were in power, who wanted the power. Now they have unleashed these people, these animals, on us. And here we are. Mr. Xie, I think you have done a lot of reading about this rape epidemic. Some folks said, even when a woman was running the country, there was very little done. What can we do to curb this menace?
Mr. Gateman, there are a lot of things that can be done. But when you think about the frequency, the reports, and you come to think that, well, it's like nothing may be enough at this time. Where is this thing coming from? Is this thing happening now because we had a war? And during that time period, generals who were heartless enough could rape anybody. They could even instruct their soldiers that they were controlling to rape just about any woman. I don't think that is the reason, or I don't think that is the only reason. I can't really pinpoint where this is coming from. But what I know is that this is happening at a proportion that we did not even imagine in our
I
country.
can tell you where it's coming from, Anthony.
And are people doing this thing for ritualistic purposes? I don't know, because if you are talking about rape, the thing I know about sex, it is for pleasure. But what pleasure does one get when one is forcing themselves, especially on a child? Now, it is not that President Weah is the one giving people the go ahead to carry on these demonic acts. Somebody posted and said, this is demonic, and I want to agree with the person. Whatever demonic egg or demon is, look, our president is the feminist in chief. There are so many different kinds of rape. When you are in a position of power and you call yourself a feminist in chief, that means you want to be able to advocate for women issue and promote the competency of women. How women, when they are being seen as co-partners in nation building, then the nation will thrive. But what we've seen, what we heard, what we know is that this so-called feminist in chief, who himself trade jobs for sex, that is the greatest rape of it all. Because the woman you are telling, I cannot appoint you until you offer yourself, that is not a decision that she made. It is a decision that you are making. So President Weah is himself a rapist. I know you are shocked that I'm saying that. I'm not a coward. He is a rapist.
Yeah, but Mr. C, let me push back a little bit, because you are a student of political science and a bulldog, and usually, as a sociologist, I believe in social statistics. You are making your accusation based on, they say there have been no cases, there have been nothing that have been adjudicated to say the president did this. You might have heard people say this, as we all do here. But to say that would be disingenuous and be unfair to the president, won't you say so?
Mr. Gibbon, and I am discussing in a court of public opinion. The judges here will be the listeners. They will decide whether I'm guilty or I'm telling the truth or not. So may I continue here? The female in chief will say nothing when government officials carry on rape. In fact, law enforcement officer, police are raping. They're not only raping citizens they should be protecting, they are raping their fellow female police officers. This is what
government buildings,
Mr. Gibbon. This is how serious this is. And now, young children in the country, they see this thing, nothing be done, so they too are joining in. And here's the other thing, Mr. Gibbon. When this news came about this so-called book chapter 13 about Claudia, the general minister was swift. But a child been raped, and she released a statement on Facebook. She went on Facebook to release a statement on behalf of the general ministry. Is that seriousness on her part? The very seriousness, the very swiftness she saw in herself, she couldn't find it this time.
Well, I'll tell you what. Go ahead.
Your brother from Grand Bassa County, Dillon, had changed her profile picture to the first lady. Edwin Snow, the guy who support your great man working great, he had changed her profile picture. These very people don't have it in them to change their profile picture to the picture of this girl, this little baby that's been raped. Dillon does not have the audacity to do that. And the country giant, the feminine in chief, is yet to utter a war. I would have loved to see righteous indignation from this president. He's not doing that because he does not have the morals to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Dualo, chime in here.
Let me finish my talk. Look, listen. People think these are children being raped in the country. We all are being raped. Okay? Every man in this country is being indignified by these rapes. Okay? The president has sanctioned rape in this country. Every government official who rapes, everybody remember the representative who raped a little girl, got impregnated this girl, and the little girl disappeared in Grangeville County. There are countless cases of rape across the country. There's absolutely nothing tangible being done in the country to remedy this situation. The president is complicit in this. He promotes this. His sitting chairman of the CDC on tape. You're looking for evidence. President Weah has to sleep with you before you give your government position. That's an indictment of the president. What was done? Absolutely nothing. Look. There is a saying out there. We all know the saying, monkey see, monkey do. People follow the leader, follow the leader. What you see in Liberia is not just under this administration. They were following Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She promoted this. It continues under this administration. We are all being ripped. Now, let me say something. People may not want to hear this. The rip is not only restricted to little girls. Young boys are themselves being sodomized in the country. This is a serious national security risk issue. When I talk about the Zogoization of Liberia, these are the kind of issues that we are pointing to. Our country morality is going out the window, and we're talking so mutely about such grave concerns in the country. The president is entirely culpable on this issue because he's not taking the leadership. I don't blame the gender ministry because she's going there to appease President Weah. The reason why you saw the degree of urgency that was attached to Claire Weah, a lady who is capable of defending herself. The entire country was defending her. When our little boys, our little girls are being ripped in the country, look, it's become a blood sport in the country with total impunity. Let's not be muted on this issue. President Weah has sanctioned this, and it's entirely true. President Weah is the leader of the rip gang in Liberia.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to rebut to that, but because of our timing here, we're going to go to the next topic, and then we'll return to that after this coming topic of trash. The main course of the discourse today is this Zogo thing, Zogoization, Zogoism in Liberia. We're going to discuss that in detail, but let's go to trash. We want to talk trash. Mr. Sear, talk trash to me. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about. We want to talk trash. Mr. Sirleaf, we need to talk trash. Ansu, we need to talk trash. We need to talk trash. We need to talk trash. Talk to me, Mr. Ansu. You the policy man. You the policy one. Talk to me about trash. What can we do to mitigate trash? Let's talk about this.
Let me summarize it for you. I'm not going to talk too long. I've spoken about trash for the last 50 years in Liberia. I've written countless articles on the issue of trash. I provided a proposal both to the Ellen Johnson administration and George Weah administration. I provided a solution. This is my summary I will give you. And I allow other people to come in because I've spoken on this issue so lengthily, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I offer the government, this sitting government. I spoke to the very highest people in government, the very highest, I'm not going to call name. Everybody who thinks high in government, they've spoken to one-on-one in their offices. I, Ensu Opazina Boakai Dualu, will come up with $1 million over 3 years to the government. The government gives me $2 million. I will come into the country. I'll take over the trash collection in the country. I'll prepare the platform. I've done everything. I will reimburse the government after 3 to 5 years. I will pay for trash in perpetuity in the Republic of Liberia. The proposal sit on the desk. They refuse to act on this proposal. Their biggest issue is, Dwalu, if we allow you to come to this country and you get rich, nobody will be able to control you. And I'm willing to substantiate that. I'm not going to say much beyond that. The trash is circulating in Liberia because the government has refused to allow Liberians to clean their city. And this is disheartening. We are being sickened. We are being killed by garbage because the government doesn't want to act. I got countless videos out there regarding this trash issue. Anybody can Google it. I will come up with a $1 million today. If the government is willing to play ball, they come up with $2 million. I will give them that $2 million in 3 to 5 years. Full reimbursement, and I will collect the trash from around the city. I will pay for it. I will set up an organization. I even went into the country. I bought 100 acres of land just to begin this process. Dwalu, we can let you come in because when you come in, my man, you get rich and nobody able to control you. And this is where we are. Y'all go ahead.
And Dwalu, I want you to end on this note. Should the government give you this money, the $2 million,
yeah,
and you agree on the time frame that you will pay this money, if you don't pay that money, should we lock you up?
First of all, I've collateralized. The money is not just money coming to me. The government can hold the money. They will see the progression. But besides that, there is a collateral in the country that I presented to them. They can use that as collateral that costs north of the $2 million. So it's not just money coming to me. It'll be collateralized. But they will see within the very first year, I told them I will create 200 permanent jobs in the country. I even offer CDC 50% of that job. And we show them step by step how we're going to do this. Don't give me the $2 million. Hold the $2 million. Put it in the escrow account, and you will see the progression how it's being used. We will remove the trash out of the country. The proposal sits on the desk. It's been presented countless times to them.
Mr. Gilman, if I may, if you don't mind, Mr. Dwalu has devoted so much time to this trash issue. He's not only talking about cleaning the city, but how you can use this waste management thing as a job creation mechanism. He also talked about how you can use it to create fertilizer that will be used for farmers.
Shingles,
what can a government,
rubber bait, a whole bunch of stuff. The entire proposal lays this out, Mr. Gaiman. Look, there is no addressing system in the country. Part of our proposal, every single structure in the city will have an addressing system. The government will not pay a dime. Nobody has to go pay for any trash in Liberia. There is a way we will collect the trash. It is this. Some of the information is confidential, but I can explain it in the government official. I've explained this to them, provided they are not willing to go out and explain my because there is no copyright laws in Liberia. There is no lawsuit against anybody taking my. And I'm like, it has to come. Sign the contract. If we don't do it, I have a 5-story, 15-apartment building in the Republic of Liberia. I will call out, take my building and auction it. The solutions are there. But if you're not sticking to the Sacomorians, they believe, you let job, we have to get you job. I don't want job, Mr. Gimme. Look, I'm a well-educated man. I'm not doing to be boastful. I work for top firms here. I make great money. I've worked in finance for the last 20 years. I can working for top firms here in Boston. I can live a comfortable life. But how do we go to sleep at night if we don't leave a legacy in Liberia? This pisses me off because the solutions are there, but our people are dying by mosquito and malaria, but nobody wants to do anything because I don't want to go to a Sacomorian tree. I'm a Liberian citizen.
So Mr. Gaiman, you see the problem of our government. The government you defame with your teeth, your blood, and everything.
Yeah.
Here is a Liberian with love for his country, with the expertise, done the study, put a proposal together, engage the government, told them how much it will cost, how the money will be used. You will see the movement.
Step by step.
And the government have shown zero interest. You know the problem that we have here? The government only believes that you have to be able to worship this king, this my brother called Joshua. That's the only way you can serve your country. It is a disservice to this country. I'll maintain that Jefferson Koji's statement that we see trash all around the city today because donors supporting us is laughable. It's like the guy is throwing.
But actually, I don't want to cut you off. I presented to them, to the Coca-Cola Foundation, to the Bill Gates Foundation, the Norwegian Fund. I told them, don't even give me the money. Don't come up with $2 million. Empower me. I will go and get the money for the city for free. The monies are out there. They're willing to give us the money, but you have to present them a case. You have to present them a case. Look, I did this for 10 years. I wrote proposal for $1.2, $1.3 billion. I used to be a proposal and it was right here. And some of the things we do is present this proposal to multinational corporations to invest. I said, listen, this is what I do for a living. You don't need to have the money. Empower me. I will go and get the money on behalf of Liberia.
So, Mr. Gaiman, you see,
this is. I'm saying this because I know a thing or two about waste management. I think doing one of our behind the scene talk. I gave you the scenario where I invited Honorable Finley when he was president pro tem, and we met with the CEO of Waste Pro, which is one of the largest waste management corporations in the world. And they went through different scenarios. And when he left from Florida, he went home, nothing happened, nothing. And I wasn't sending a proposal like my brother has done. We want to show him what the possibilities are, how the waste system is put together, how the sites are built, how the gases are collected. All of these things are things that are possible, and this is how it is done. It is now your job as a pro tem to go home and look for these corporations that are capable of doing this and let Liberia benefit from it. And it was 2014 when we had a conversation with him. So I understand where my brother is coming from. Also, now, Mr. Dualo, before you go, can I say, is there possible that we can have, if we don't have a total private mechanism, can we have a private-public partnership where we can do this?
Those options are presented in the proposal as well. A public-private partnership, how the progression is going to go, how the elevation now. President, we have the trash in one time. Just see one of my picking called Josie Bernard. He knows it very well. Okay, he lives in Bernard Farm where we have the trash. Look, you got to understand the population of Monrovia. We did a massive study in the country that I funded using my own damn money. Only United Nations came when Ellen Johnson Charlie. The population of Monrovia, there's a massive progression. It's close. People say 1 million. We are probably right now about 1.4 million people in the city. Now, the city continues to expand. The progression, according to the estimate or the forecast for the city, in the next 10 to 15 years, we will possibly hit 2.2, 2.3 million people. Now, as it stands, we don't have the capacity for the trash collection in the city. Imagine what's going to happen when there is no sewer system. This is the phase 3 of our program, is getting the sewage, liquid waste. Initially, trash collection. Trash collection is the easiest portion of this garbage collection. We're talking about sewage. It's a whole other platform. In fact, I'm Ellen Johnson Salib, Amara Conan. If you see all the government toilets in Monrovia, I, Ensu Opa Dwalu, promoted for the revising of the government toilet. We want to run pipes on the toilets. They said, oh, we didn't have money. They came up with $500,000 and they put Camos in the government toilet all over Monrovia. I ran after that. Anybody put in government toilet right in Monrovia, that me making it up, that place look fine small. I will be an early name for that thing. We have to address sanitation if we are going to become a modern metropolis. Our own radio spending my money, our up and down Monrovia. Nobody will listen. You know what they're calling me? Pupu Opa. But I don't believe our people. They don't know better. But the people that know better, they should understand this. Look how much is being allocated for sanitation in the country. Anybody know? Anybody on the network knows how much is being allocated for sanitation in the country?
I really don't know.
Less than $500,000.
Not even $1 million.
Barely comes to the country. Garbage collection. Let me tell you what's going on. So take a truck load of garbage from Red Lake to Wayne Town. It's costing the government about $123 per truck load. We can do it for $30, but the government don't have to pay. The government don't have to pay. We will pay. Look, this is not one day thing. There are videos I've done, shows on Focus on Liberia. I've done show on Asphalt Valley. I've done a lot of shows, and I talk. My man, you don't come to the country to get rich, for which I always respond. What's wrong with me getting rich? If I bring the technical skill, if I create an environment, what would you create jobs? Improve the human capital in the country, expand the country, expand the tax base. I'm supposed to get rich. What's wrong with that?
All right.
That's correct. Mr. Sherry, real quick before we move to the next one, your take on this filth. I mean, we've been embarrassed. The international community called us the dirtiest city. I think a friend of mine by the name of George Famule made it clear, without an identification system, without a road network, without a city planning, we are basically the dog chasing our own tails here, unless somebody with a vision see what you guys are seeing. What's your take?
This is a complete lack of leadership at all levels. I remember speaking to Mr. Dwalu. He probably doesn't remember now, but that was back in, I believe, in 2011, 2012. I was so impressed. He wrote something on the listserv, how he went to Monrovia with these mobile latrines.
The first ever in Liberia, yes.
Yeah, so he carried that project. He was the first Liberian to carry it, I believe, in my memory, the first Liberian to carry that project. And that wasn't supported. It's really beyond belief. I called him and I spoke to him. I commended him actually for doing that. And I felt terribly bad that nobody was willing to support that. So if there's any two Liberians today that you can appoint or you can go to solve Liberia's trash garbage problem, this is one you're looking at right here. Ansu Dwalu is one that you're looking at.
Mr. Sherry, I'm so sorry. I want to cut you off. When the Porta Potties came to the country, it was the very first in the country. When I took 4 tanker trucks, each of my trucks were 2,000-gallon trucks. Anybody in Monrovia saw those tanker trucks? The government refused. There was a huge fight. Look, read the article. It's out there. It's called Dwalu Group 8, a possible solution to Liberia sanitation woes. You can Google the paper. It's out there somewhere. And people in government, when I was not willing to play ball, I'm going to put that in quotation. I went after Metal Steel. The railroad between Buchanan and Yegepa, I supplied the toilets for Metal Steel. Kennedy Hotel Project, the U.S. Embassy expansion, the German Embassy, the Chinese Embassy. I provide toilet for all of those facilities, even when they had a colloquium. When people saw there was money in this thing, because the toilets in Liberia, you can make $40,000, $50,000 a month, U.S. dollars. Then during Ebola, I supply all the U.S. troops in Liberia. What will happen is that the government realized this money in this thing, the government decided to compete against me. People remember, City Hall brought Porta Potties. I had to supply them chemical because they're not doing the research enough. Our issue in the country is, if somebody does not work in government or have the kind of affiliation that they're looking for with a government official, that person should not be able to eat outside the government. This is lunacy. We have to build the private sector. This is the only condition I have for any government official or any person running for president. I have to read a public policy. I mean, a private sector policy before I can come on board. We have to put something together to show me how we can create jobs. I just published another paper how we can create 100,000 jobs in the country in the next 2 years. It's out there. It's called A Guide to Increasing Liberia National Budget from $500 million to $2 billion in 10 years. Google the paper. There are solutions out there. But when you provide a solution, my man Dwalu, y'all know too, my boy. Poor people spoil the country. It is not poor people. It is a refusal to implement policy that will address the dire circumstances in the country.
Thank you very much, guys. We're running out of time. I mean, I love this. I love this. Before we go to our last topic, which is the Zogo issues, we'll take a quick break. Yes,
real quick. I know you're going to bring this Zogo issue. Please answer Dwalu. I'm telling you, this is one Liberian, and I named Dr. Kofa as well. But this is one Liberian. If Liberia needs to solve this problem, so people, you know, the mayor the other day is begging for money to solve the problem. You have a Liberian right here, a very educated Liberian, a Liberian who is concerned, who has the passion and the idea to solve this problem. So they don't want to solve the problem.
Yeah,
they really don't want to, because right here you have someone who can solve this issue. They don't want to solve the problem. They're playing games, right? So when I say this and people have issues, they're just playing games with the Liberian people. They don't want to solve any problem, because if you want to solve that problem, this is someone you can. This
solution
right here
to this problem cannot be Mary Bro. Mary Bro was Ellen Johnson's solution. Mary Bro again has become Joshua's solution. Jefferson Koji cannot be a solution to this. The solution has to be ideas, and Dwalu has proffered one.
It has to be
if this government is any serious, this is President. We should be here and I'm listening today instead of listening to gossip. Is this brother ever going to get serious about keeping our place clean? This is somebody who is willing to help.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Listen, we got one more topic to go, which is there's not much. It's not much different from the Zogoism that we are talking about, because when you talk about trash, why I do not want to call other human being trash, we are talking about the disposable human being, those that the society, the elitists, the people in power. People who see themselves today as somebody are now disposing those people that brought them to power, those that helped them in some way.
My government, has rejected. Just say it like that.
No, it's not my government, because we have had Zogo from the very inception of the early government. So we have seen that we as people, including all politicians, when Dillon was running, you saw what he did. He was the champions of the Zogos. The folks were calling him. He's the light. He will bring the light. He will speak for us. But before we go to our topic, let's read some comment real quick, and we'll come back and finish our stuff, because we want to be out of here by no later than 5:30. Get ready for the next show. Let's go to comments. If there are any calls, we'll go into that. But let's go to the comments, and let's address those comments, then go to the Zogoism, my specialty. Mr. C, I think you got a reading position here.
Okay. But you cannot be asking for help and talking down on people. You have to be humble and not boastful. You see the problem?
Yes, exactly.
The man is a Liberian talking about a country. You want to be humble before any God to do that. I mean, the president is not a God. He's a servant.
No, I think what Roslyn is saying is not what you say, it's how you say it, in the old term.
No. It is. But you cannot be asking for help. The man is not asking for help.
He's not asking for help.
He's not asking for help.
He's not asking for help.
I want to be able to help solve a problem that we have.
But he's asking for a partnership, which is good. Nothing wrong with that. I think we all can help. I mean, I'm talking about Mr. Sherry, Mr. CA, myself. We all can help. Mr. Dwalu here. We all can hang head and see where we go from here.
All right. Let us read the comments quickly, and then we will come back. Let's hear from Mampu Ho Opa. Please don't make me angry with the government this beautiful Sunday. I mean, so the person can't take it. How can a government sit by, right, and see somebody make this much effort and like, we don't care, and yet they have trust issue? That person is saying that. Yeah, from Kofa here. Use our prisoners, first and second shift. We will save millions. Put those rapists and armed robbers to clean the city and help to build the roads. That person is proposing some solutions here. Let's hear from Princess Johnson, right? It is sad that he will have, I mean, he will have to do that. But you are right too. Only white boys they respect. Yeah, that person is making a case. If Dwalu were a white boy, they
Yeah.
will say, "You white men come here, your ideas are good." But the black man, in fact, is a Liberian anyway. And so put a white boy at the front of your entity. Remain in the background if you want to succeed. And Dave Jai, I think he's being a little sarcastic here, but that is a reality.
That's
If
really
Walu
right.
puts on a white picking in front of the day,
That
he
was it.
succeed, and then he will be helping our people, right? I mean, does he have to do that? Don't we want to be proud of our own? Like, yeah, from Manu, that's the last name. I just hope the city mayors in other cities in Liberia are paying attention to what's happening in Monrovia. How would they pay attention when the law make they call him lawmaker? I don't know why they put a law behind it. Bunch of nonsense. Like, yet, let us hear from Levy Thompson.
Demagoguery.
Levy Wright. Do you have a proof to sustain what you are saying in code? Was Obama gay? Anyway, this is a different thing. We don't want to go to that gay thing here. We have enough of that. Lucretia Nelson speak, my dear. Women group took the street because of this book, but they are unable to advocate for our babies being raped. Sad. And the general minister is quiet, like one baby who they told, if you don't sweep this place, you will not get your candy.
Yeah.
Sad indeed. Jimmy Eastman answering, be careful with your labor. Jimmy Eastman, I am not going to be careful. I mean, this is serious. Labor is characterized as making or publishing a false and malicious statement about someone in writing that damages the person's reputation. I mean, reputation, they can come after me. When you write an article in the newspaper about someone being a thief, even though if it is not true, that is an example of labor. That is what, well, I appreciate the warning there, but I would not mind going into jail. Mr. Gibbons is going to tell me to Liberia and turn me over to his boys so they can grab me and do what they wish to do.
Right,
That goes to tell you all that although rape has been an ongoing problem in Liberia, it has now been rampant and an epidemic on this administration. That is how the person put it. Lots of comments like here from this person, Mr. Gaiman. In most rape cases, the perpetrators are men who are in position of authority, i.e., pastor, employers, and other male family members. That person, right? Lots of comments. We can't get to all of them. They hear from Mampu here. What is Mampu saying? Mampu, we shall see if number 9 will not. JMB, Mr. Anthony said time will tell. You are right. Time will tell. Well up, Mr. JMB is number 9. I don't think he's yet to play. Mampu again. Well, I'll leave it there. Let me go to somebody else. Let's hear from Prout. 80 years of Waka's existence. He squandered every opportunity in his lifetime. Folks, please leave this pop alone, man. Yeah, leave the pop alone. Dave Jatiawon Gongloe has impeccable credentials to be the president of Liberia. We are now going to be second tier. Second tier, thank you. This is our election to win. It's quite insulting to insist that someone needs Waka to be relevant. And that's the thing with these people. Dave Jad is on team Gongloe, and he's saying we're not going number 2. We will win this thing. We'll come from here and win it. Well, I think we should stop there with comments. A lot of them, we can't get to them because of time.
Okay, gentlemen, and this is where we are. We can respond to all of the comments, and they are all great comments. We're doing this because we love our country. There was a young man that called me the other day. He said he likes to watch On Point. And I say, why so? He said, you guys are so passionate about what you talk about, especially you and Mr. Thule. He says, one thing I like, you guys do not discuss personalities, but you discuss issues involving personalities. And he says, even though sometimes Mr. Thule gets upset, but you guys do not go personal. And we like that. We discuss these issues while we are not discussing President Weah per se, we are discussing issues that affect George Weah, President Weah. When it comes to cleaning the city, when it comes to sanitation, when it comes to health, it cuts across CDC, Unity Party. We are all affected by what's happening here. So if it makes sense that we talk to somebody that we know, that we say, give this guy or give this girl a fair hearing. Even if it means when I worked 10 years as the CEO of the United Way, when we are giving major grants, we do it in phases. We say, listen, if we gave you the first 9 months, if it doesn't pan out, we call you back and say, give a corrective action plan. If it doesn't work out, we say you are incapable. But you cannot deny something this good from the onset. I think this gentleman needs a second hearing. He needs to give him a chance to prove himself that this thing works. But for you to say, and I know this because in the old regime, people would say, if you're going to make money, give me a share. You got to promise me X, Y, Z before.
We can't talk all yet. They would say that loud. We can't talk all, but let's leave that topic.
No, but no, you see the problem, you guys are all contributing to this problem. When we keep saying we can't wash our dirty clothes in the public when you shouldn't have dirty clothes in the first place. So with the advent of social media and the openness of the society, we need to wash some of these dirty clothes like my brother John Malu did. Okay, if you saw something, say it. Even if you're going to come by later and say I was drunk, okay, it makes sense. But if this is what's happening, we all have to address it. But let's go to our final issue here, and then in our closing we can rebut and add on to this. Let's go to Zogoism. We are talking about our society's rejects. It may not be anything of their own doing. As you can see, when you look at the demographic of Liberia, we say about, at the time, 60% of our population under 30. That is a booming, a vibrant society. And these people, we say we are in a republic, a democratic society, where when we elect people in the House and the Senate, we elect people from within ourselves, people who look like us, people who talk like us. So when I read your article on Zogoism, it makes sense that there are possibilities, there are Zogos in the House and in the Senate, because our democracy calls for that. Now, Zogoism, you are saying this. I know you made some wild allegations. One of the things that I did first when I read the article to it ends, I went to my last year of undergraduate school, and I read this book called The McDonaldization of Society. And what did that book say about how simplistic society have become, how it have made us lazy, how we compartmentalize the issues of society. Here you chose to only concentrate on the Zogoism and what made it happen, and what would be the outcomes, without going and giving us the corresponding causes of what happened. So let's go to the Zogos. Who are the Zogos? Define for me who are the Zogos.
Well, let me put it very simply. The Zogo is anybody in our society who present condition is caused entirely due to societal consequences. For example, the heavy corruption in the country, the lack of governmental institutions. Anybody who that current position, chronic unemployment, chronic illness, poor education, the position you're currently in, if any factors that the government calls or they not do the job cause you to be in that position, it puts you in that category of being Zogos. Okay, so when you see the massive high school dropout rate in the country, the increase in literacy in the country, when you look at the chronic joblessness, the dissolution of the family unit, every single person in Liberia, in fact, there's a line there in the article that says almost everybody in Liberia is one mishap away from being labeled Zogo. You can become justice minister today, and if you fall from glory, there is a high probability you become a Zogo in less than 3 months. It's happening. I gave example of Jenkins Scott. Look up some of your former legislators that become Zogos. Look up former police officers, people who work in government. They're smoking in the ghettos of Monrovia. They become Zogo because the society, the institution that protects the society, is no longer there because of massive corruption and the absent government that we currently have. That's what the Zogo is.
Mr. Seed, I think you are a student of history. You live in Minnesota, another metropolis, the Twin Cities here. I disagree with the description of the Zogo that he's talking about. His understanding and description of Zogo, if that is the case, for instance, in the United States, in New York City alone, they are talking about just 3 people in New York City. We're talking about 76,000 to 100,000 known people that you would consider Zogo, people who sleep under the bridges,
Mm-hmm.
in the train, on the bus, on the streets. Those are folks who, for one reason or another, have fallen on hard time. Uh, Mr. Shea, do you agree with that particular description of Zogoism? Or there's more to it? Do we need to dig a little deeper than this definition that is given, that is basically borderline sarcasm?
Look, I read Dwalo's article. He was very much poetic from the beginning to the middle. And then he became very blunt from the middle to the end. That is how you write concerning a subject that is destroying the future of a country. He did that so brilliantly to draw people attention. The different categories of Zogo that he listed in that article, I agree with them 110%. There's that Zogo category, the one that's snatching cell phones in the day and bags and all of that, and will turn to armed robbers in the night. Those are the ones when the communities are seized, beat to death, and sometimes set ablaze. That is that Zogo. And there is that other group of Zogos who are sitting in the offices, riding the B cars, have access to government coffers, will take any amount, either through a budgetary process or through a contract or just about any other means where they have access. That person is a Zogo. To understand that, he said, look at Jikin Scow as an example. He was this big Zogo, but you couldn't see him as a Zogo because at that time he has occupied power. When that power was taken away from him, he started begging that the Zogo you see down Wallace. This is sensical. It makes a lot of sense. We have to change this. We have to provide opportunity for us. Even the guy in government, when he leaves government, let there be a private sector where he can go and work.
Thank you.
If there's not, that opportunity does not exist, that person will not want to leave government, or that person will want to steal as much as they can because they believe that there's no any other opportunity out there. This is a serious issue. Dwalu lay it out so succinctly, and I agree with everything. I want to briefly talk on the Zogo's press statement that they released. I don't know for a fact whether somebody wrote that or it came from the Zogo. Whatever the case might be, this paints a realistic picture about what we are talking about today. Now, in the Zogo's or press statement, they said that according to their 2021 statistics, there are about 36,000 of them in Monrovia alone, and a total of 82,000 in the country. You see that? And they are saying, in terms of number, numerical strength, they are more than the police. The police is about 2,500 officers.
Right.
And if you look at them, they are saying only in Monrovia, we are 36. We can take on the police and we can knock them down. Mr. Gaiman, that is true. We saw that in Douala. I think you remember that.
Yeah.
Now, they even went in their statement, they said, let me tell you something. The police officer you're seeing today, some of them are running ghettos. These police officers. That is why sometimes they can't even arrest us. They went as far as saying, we, the Zogos, we are contributing to the economy. How? I asked the question. Their statement answered that they said, look, we are the one washing the cars. We are contributing to the economy. I don't know how. They went and list a lot of things. Then they talk about the police officers. They went and gave the SG, they say the man is a pathological liar. These are people that are telling you that the SG, the man who's supposed to be enforcing law to protect life and property in our country, they say he's a pathological liar and they know his secret. And that the police officer in Liberia are malnourished and they don't even wear good uniform.
True.
Can you imagine that? And our police officers are nothing but fake police, according to their statement. And they said that the police officer, they know those police officers that partner with them to carry on robberies in the night.
True.
They can point them out.
Yes.
That tells us that these police officers are in business with these so-called Zogos. And they went on something. They said the president had a State of the Nation address. He did not say anything about us. And they asked the president to put at least $5 million in the budget for them to be rehabilitated, to become useful citizens. And the
$50,000
that we don't want to be in this situation. Either way you look at it, these guys make a lot of sense. We must take this thing
Absolutely.
serious. The
Absolutely.
long
No, you
thing,
have a
there
series.
can be the solution to it, and I will stop that far.
Oh, thank you very much, Anthony. I'm going to push back on that because when you're talking about police officers being corrupt, they have corrupt police officers everywhere, even in New York City here.
Hey,
They
let's
try
stop
several.
comparing New York to
We
us.
tried several police officers for actually in the Bronx for seizing drugs and releasing the drugs. They knew who these drug dealers were. And once a month, they would come and raid these people, know exactly where the monies are,
Are you
take
saying
their
so
money
is
and
okay
leave
in
them.
Liberia?
So, Mr. Sharif, we are talking about defining Zogos here. According to his reason, if the Zogos are 70, let's say 36,000 in Monrovia alone, that tells you that Zogos are so powerful that they can elect one of their own, like Yeke Koluba, into the house and create complete havoc. Now that they have elected one of their own in the house, what is Yeke Koluba doing to rehabilitate, to bring home the bacon, like we said, because he's a Zogo. We know he's a Zogo. He admitted he was a child soldier. He was a Zogo, and he was elected by the Zogo. So the Zogo themselves need to take responsibility that even the Zogo themselves, when you empower them, they turn to be an elitist in the Zogo rank. How do you address the Zogoism in the House and the Senate? They're everywhere.
The Zogo problem is bigger than Yeke Koluba. This is not just a Yeke Koluba issue. This is a national issue. We've been on this show for the last hour and a half, talking about these critical national issues such as sanitation. Now we're talking about Zogo. So the leadership all across the board, it's a failure of leadership. We know that coming out of the Civil War, uh, there were issues in the Liberian society that remain unaddressed. So what you see now as the proliferation of young people, individuals who are not so young, on drugs and committing crimes, is a pathological residue of the Civil War. There were guys, there were tens of thousands of young people who were recruited into. First, it was Charles Taylor. I mean, we all saw what happened, and then there were other factions that came along. So it didn't just start. It didn't just start now. So my question is, and it is my issue, why hasn't there been a national strategy to address this national pandemic? So for Liberia, everything is just, there's one administration that's going to kick the can down the road, and then it's going to continue to happen over and over and again. And it's so sad to see, you mentioned the United States. At least you have people talking about issues like that here. If there's issue of homelessness, it is being talked about in the United States, and there are policies around addressing the issue of homelessness. There
Thank
are
you.
policies, to go back to Anthony's point about Mirrorbrook not being it's not the policy. Her going around Monrovia picking up trash, forcing people to do this and that and the other is not a policy. You need a realistic policy. You need a policy. You need a national policy. So if this government has a priority, the issue of Zogos have to be a national priority. The national priority is not buying 100 cars and 100 motorbikes for chiefs. That's not a national priority. What you are doing is you're bribing people for votes. That shouldn't be a national priority. A national priority should be stuff that we're discussing now. And by the way, it's not just Monrovia, it's all over the country. So you can
Thank
go
you.
from Cape Palmas to Cape Mount, from Vonjama to Zwedru, addressing these issues. All of the issues that we've discussed today are issues that are so global, that are so national in scope, that the government, I mean, and it's not like these things can't be done. They can be done. But the question is there a political will? Even, and I'm not sure if there's a political will, and I'm not sure if there is a political competence. Like, these guys are not competent to address these issues. And they're not really that hard to address. But I don't think these guys are competent enough to address these issues.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are coming to the end of our show here. We're running out of time. We are going to go around the table. We're going to give everybody 2 minutes to do the closing. You can rebut and do all you want to do at this point, because We have had a great day. And Mr. Dualo, I would love you to continue to come back to educate us on your areas of expertise, just as Mr. Sharif has been. And obviously the Bulldog here, when it comes to the political talks, he has no limits. We say it, this is what a fledgling democracy needs. You can say we are beating war drums. You can say that we are preaching to the choir. You can say we are praise singing. But our democracy needs this. And I'm sure that they are listening. And as long as we say this, as long as we beat this drum, believe it or not, somebody will listen, something is going to happen. We have to be consistent. We have to be fair, and we have to be true to the cause. Mr. Sie, this is what you do for living. You drink, you sleep, you eat, you wake up politics. How do we address the platitude of issues? We may not be able to eat this elephant whole, but how do we bite it a piece at a time realistically? In your closing.
Mr. Gateman, thank you. I have my limitations, and my limitations are like in the roof. I don't know much. I just have the little mouth, and I just having to have eyes that see something when it is what it is, talking about wrongs. And I have the bravery to talk about it, and I don't care about the consequences because I'm a crusader of the truth. So if you are asking me about how do we find the solution to these issues that we're talking about, we are blessed to have people in our midst as a country who have prepared themselves for the solutions. Dwalu is one, and he been sounding that trumpet that there is a proposal here to the trust issue. It's not only making us sick, but we are losing out in terms of creating jobs. I would just take that and amplify that, hoping that policy makers will see that, listen to that, and implement it. That is my job. So I am not going to give solutions here. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I would, if we had a government that could listen. The one we have has closed its ears. You have to be a sedition for them to listen to you. If Dwalu were a sedition, probably they would have listened to him. If Dwalu were a white boy, probably they would have listened to him. If Focus on Liberia was seeking Joshua's son, as you are doing as an individual, probably they were listening to us, but they are not listening to us. I will not give solution anymore. I have brought so many solutions with my little limitation in the past. Those things we're not listening to, and I'm not going to waste my breath. I will continue preaching to educate our people so they will know the truth, so that when they have the opportunity to think about who to be leaders in our country, they will make the right decision. There I will stop. It was an excellent discussion. Thank you for hosting. Even though you were not on point, you were off point. You took off your propos cup. Let me see that propos cup. Show it before I conclude here. All right, with Sacomoran juice in it, and you're drinking it. So you forgot about Mama Liberia. You're telling us that Josh Manawia is great man, walking great. You forgot your country, Mr. Goodman. I'm highly disappointed. I want you to be able to talk for Liberia, not Joshua, but that's what you're doing. Thank you for being off point. Dwalu, thank you for being so much on point. And Mr. Sherry, thank you so much for being on point. I think we had a great discussion today. Thanks so much to our audience.
Mr. Sharif, take us home.
Yeah, I think what we've discussed today on Point are issues that are very relevant to the national development of Liberia. So I think the national leaders, I'm praying and hoping that they listen, but they are not listening. So it is the reason why when I come on our show on Tough Talking Thursday, although as an independent, it will sound sometimes like I'm beating the opposition drum. I'm in the opposition corner. Is because the leadership, the ruling elite, takes me there. So when I say me, it's just speaking for all independents, people who are independent minded. You think they're not watching. You think they don't know what's going on. So the leadership does not give you enough to be able to stand in their corner, to be able to salute them once in a while. So I want to be able to do that, but it is very, very hard, and it's becoming extremely difficult to do that. So I'm hoping that in the next election, in 2023, that the Liberian people will make a wise decision.
And so,
Yeah, Mr. Gaiman.
one of the things that Dr. Michael Dukakis used to say when you call him governor, he said, no, don't call me governor. Please call me first name basis. We are all human beings. I do not have monopoly on knowledge, even though I'm your professor. Call me Mike or call me Mike. Don't call me Dr. Dukakis or Governor Dukakis. So it's not personal when I call you by your first name.
Yes, sir.
Give us your overview, putting all things aside, your terrible experiences in the past administration and then the carry over into this administration. What is it can we do for a new beginning?
Look, like Anthony said, I will steal this from Anthony. People want solution. I don't just talk, I do a lot of writing. Google my name. There are countless articles on almost every issue facing the country. I try to write on them. I don't read large articles. It's intentional, sometimes 3-4 pages, because I want you to read them. I don't want, because we're not a reading culture. But I want to say this. Whenever we're having these conversations, nothing here is personal. The reason why sometimes we get a little personal is because we're talking about our country. It's emotional. It's not personal. It is okay to support whoever you want to support. But when you become emotionally attached to this person, you don't see a lot of things. When we talk about sanitation, I want you to understand this. There is no development in the history of mankind that adds more value to a country than proper sanitation. It grows exponentially over time. This is the only way. If you truly want to develop, you got to start from the sewers. Look at London. Until London built the sewer system, London could not grow. We have to grow as a society. The Zogo issue is a national security risk issue. The reason why you see the proliferation of rape cases in the country is because most of these Zogos, they are mentally disturbed. So sometimes they are raping kids and they themselves don't even know what they're doing. So it's a national security risk issue. Now, and I want to caution you, Mr. Gavin, sometimes when you're doing a comparison to a Western country that is well developed with institutions, with these allocations in the budget to address some of the dire circumstances in the country, you cannot make that comparison to our country. This year, initially, the Zogos in Liberia were allocated less than $20,000. Senator Dillon had to push before it went to $50,000. So the entire budget for the Zogo issue in Liberia is $50,000. Less than 5% of that goes towards the rehabilitation of the country. And I want to challenge the audience today. Please, you have to read. You have to read. Nothing is personal, but you have to read. If we don't know what we're doing, if you want to know who should be the best president of Liberia, I want you to Google a guide to picking Liberia's next president. Google it. Read for yourself. There must be criteria that we set for leadership. Leadership is not a simple thing. Everything rises and falls on leadership. If you cannot learn this lesson, our entire country will continue to be Zogoized. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your knowledge, your experiences, what you bring to the table here. This is what On Point is all about. It is about teasing the mind. Now, let me talk about another issue that will be coming up, and this is a direct challenge to the progressive. As we about to bury one of the thinkers of Liberian politics, we talk about Dr. Sawyer. We will be talking about later on the darker side of Dr. Sawyer. We're going to discuss that, and we are calling on the best and the brightest of that group, that genre, to come and defend. We are calling the best and the brightest, his students, his comrades, people who knew him. We know the books, we know everything, but we want to discuss the contrary. We have a contrarian view. We will discuss that. But in all this, and I have been saying this from the beginning of time, Liberia's problem is this thing they call the unitary government that we have. The unitary government is a government system that is so centralized that the president is the imperialist, the imperial presidency. This is why when I met Councillor Bromsky 2002 at Monrovia College, I told him, I said, as a lawyer, what are you doing to change this imperial presidency? Are you going to fight constitutionally to do away with the unitary system so we can go to some kind of quasi-federal system where council would be considered as states, where local government would do revenue sharing, where we would
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let people Google Restart Liberia, build a new foundation. I took a whole time to discuss that very topic.
Very good. So this is what we are talking about. And the reason that Honorable Bronskin did not want to fight against the unitary system is because it is a power that he wanted. And he says, no. Same thing when you listen to Cummings. Cummings said the only job that I want in this country is the presidency because it is where I can make a difference. But nobody is saying I'm going to dismantle this for us to start from anew because this system has failed us. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at a unitary system in Liberia that gave all the power to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, gave all the power to George Weah, gave all the power to Charles Taylor, and they can do whatever they want to do. They can sentence you to death. They can actually sentence you to death.
Right.
So we have to look at a unitary system. Most people do not understand the Liberia system. We have a unitary system that has failed us. It is killing us. And if we actually want to move well, we have to do a federal system or a quasi-federal system. With this, gentlemen, you guys have been great. Let's meet here again next Sunday, same time. Mr. Sier, as always, you have been godsend. You have been great. Mr. Sharif, every time we call upon you, you will lay down everything. I know you're studying. You come on here, and this is great for us. This is great for Liberia. It's great for our audience. Mr. Dualo, come on anytime you so choose. Send me most of your articles and look at it. But as always, whether you are the opposition, whether you are in position, whether you are Liberian, or you love Liberia, you are a sympathizer of the Liberian society or the Liberian experience, we are all one Liberian. My brother, let's go out with this song. We are all Liberians.
We are Liberians.